2 convenient locations, and you've got your one-stop shop for game day. Discount Liquor in Milwaukee on 51st in Oklahoma, only 10 minutes from AmFam Field, and in downtown Waukesha on Barstow and Main.
Discount Liquor.
Taking you inside the game and breaking down every second of the action.
Bucks will have to indulge in the exact opposite. A bitter pill to swallow after a season high in expectations comes to an end much earlier than they would have liked.
This is Bucks at 6.
What I loved about our guys is no one wavered. That one guy wavered. Every single guy in that locker room thought, even without those guys, we're still going to win this series. And that says a lot about the character of your team.
Broadcasting live from the brand new Potawatomi Sportsbook inside Potawatomi Casino Hotel, alongside ESPN's Myron Metcalf. Here's Emmy Award winner, Homer.
Yes, the ex-Bucks, the former Bucks. The Bucks can't win without Giannis. Can Giannis stay healthy? We'll see what Myron Metcalf says, because nothing else matters. And he has done the last 2 years exactly what Kawhi Leonard did the previous 2 years going into this year. And Kawhi Leonard's hurt again. And if Giannis gets hurt again, it's over. Doesn't matter anything else they do. Everything else is meaningless and unless you can figure out a way to keep Giannis healthy in the playoffs, which has not been the case in the last 2 years. Good evening, Myron. Take it away. You have the final 58 minutes. I'm done.
Well, I'm glad to be here. I mean, it's you hit it. To me, yes, the loss, but you don't have your star. Dame is hurt, part of the series as well. But now I think it's all about the future, right? Giannis is a big man who's about to be 30 years old. And history suggests that that's when the durability challenges become more prominent, right? And we've already seen Giannis
I will defer to you on that.
Multiple...
I haven't studied it, but yeah, but the decision is real clear. If you're worried about that, you trade him now.
Giannis?
Yes. If you don't think he can stay healthy in the playoffs, you're going to have Kawhi Leonard. You want to live? They didn't do it. They didn't do it the last 2 years. Kawhi Leonard's played two of 11 playoff games. Guess how many Giannis has played in the last 2 years now? 2 of 11. How's it going this year for Kawhi Leonard? How's it going?
Yeah, I mean, the durability is a real thing. He's a 7-footer, and at this stage, turning 30, you have to be concerned about whether or not this becomes the norm. So I think that makes 100%. Then your other star is a guy in Damian Lillard who's going to be 35 next season. Right. Last year of his contract, 36.
If Giannis isn't healthy, it doesn't matter if you have Damian Lillard or not, right?
100%. But I also think this is one of the 3 or 4 greatest basketball players on the planet. So I think when you talk about trades, you got to think about realistically what you could get in return and whether or not that will put you in the position you're in now. With Giannis, if he's healthy, he hasn't been,
it's going to put you in a worse position. But could it be worse than
way worse,
the Clippers are right
now?
But
way worse. He's not replaceable.
I know, but if he can't stay healthy, now I agree with you. You're probably willing to give it a shot one more year, just like the Clippers have.
I think you got to build around him more than anything. So I don't think a generational talent like that. You have to consider that if you lose it, and this is a team that knows this, right? You know what happened with Kareem leaving Milwaukee. You can set yourself back 5, 10, 20 years as a franchise before you ever get a talent like that again. So Giannis isn't a replaceable star. I think what they have to do is get younger. They have 8 guys on this roster who are 30 years or older. With Bobby Portis and Giannis, those are 2 29-year-olds. So they've got to get younger. They need fresh legs. They need more energy around Giannis. And you have to be able to get at least another young star. So in the scenario you're describing, if Giannis can't go, do we still have a chance to be competitive on the highest levels? That's the issue. They got to get better and younger across the roster.
The answer is no. How the hell are they going to get that much better with what they have? Just like, how good can the Clippers be if Kawhi's not playing?
Yeah, I think if you're talking about a trade, though, let's say you have to make a trade.
No, I don't. Well, yeah,
it
I
can't
don't know
be
what you do,
Giannis.
And we know they're not going to do it because they're willing to give it a one more year. But the one more year will be a waste, just like this year was a waste, because they have no idea if those guys can play together in the playoffs because Giannis was hurt. So next year is literally the first real year with Kawhi Leonard and whoever else they bring up, right? They didn't learn anything this year. They don't know what they can do in the playoffs.
But when Kawhi was healthy, they were pretty good. The risk, the reward has to be pretty high in this situation. And it's still very high. The potential to have a healthy Giannis, if you can get that. When you've had him healthy, you won a championship. When you've had him healthy, you've been one of the best teams in the NBA.
They won with Kawhi Leonard when he was healthy.
But I don't think he's Kawhi. I don't think you can talk about Kawhi as much because Kawhi's entire career has really been defined like that. Honestly, ever since that year when they won with the Raptors, he's dealt with a lot of these issues, even during that year. So Kawhi is not a great example because this is his whole career. Giannis is dealing.
No, it's not. But just so you know, from 2009, 2019, 2020, 2021, he didn't miss a playoff game. Played them all. And then in 2021, then the second series is when he got hurt. And now he's a Giannis. He's missed 9 of the last 11. But he had a stretch of, it's probably 40 straight playoff games he played in.
Well, you look at the regular season and some of the bumps and bruises he had as well. You're going to keep Giannis. The idea of trading Giannis is ridiculous. Like, there's no way you could trade Giannis. This is one of the greatest players in the NBA right now. He's had durability issues these last couple.
Tell me this.
But that can happen to anybody, though.
He can be playing. If you don't think he'd be healthy in the playoffs, why do you keep him?
But that can happen to anybody, though, Ken. You're talking about preventing injuries. How do you do that? How do you do that? Let's say you go get some young guy and you decide he's going to be the solution. Look at Zion Williamson. Look at Ja Morant. A bunch of young guys have been hurt. The team you just played, the Indiana Pacers, Tyrese Halliburton has been banged up at points this season. So I think you're trying to have a magic ball and prevent injuries. I don't know how you do that. But with that reality, I'm not trading one of the 4 or 5 best players in the league. Now, Damian Lillard, that's a different conversation.
They're not. But they because he's that good. But I'm saying the most important thing about him is not whether they get young people with him, which they need to do. It's whether or not they can get him healthy for the playoffs. Because whatever they do.
Yeah, but how do you – but what can you do to guarantee that he'll be healthy? What in any play?
One, is he prone to – no. I mean, I don't know what you could have done with Kawhi Leonard, but the same way. I don't know. I don't know what you do, and I'm not a doctor to know where you think, look, this guy's just going to keep getting hurt, and I don't think that's true with Giannis. And because he's as good as you say he is, and he is, then you're willing to take the gamble. But like
you have to.
For example, should he play for Greece in the Olympics?
If he wants to, if he's healthy, yeah. But that's up to him. I think the idea that you're suddenly going to prevent injuries at this level,
you're not going to prevent them.
It's not possible.
Risk my future on guys that are getting hurt on a regular basis.
Your future is rested on a guy who's a top 5 player in the NBA, who's a former MVP, who's been top 3 in the MVP race in multiple years since then.
That's great, Myron. That was true 2 years ago when he got hurt and they lost first round. That was true this year. He got hurt and they lost in the first round, right? Whatever you said about Giannis could be said before this season and before last season, correct? What did it get you?
Listen.
Nothing.
But you have a championship, and with him, you have a team that's a top 3 seed and a chance to compete. Let me give you though the trade. Let's make you GM for a second. Who do you want? You go take Giannis to the negotiating table around the NBA. Who do you want? Give me the player you want who's going to lead you to the promised land and is going to be 100% healthy in the playoffs. You tell me the guy.
I don't know who the guy is, but I'm saying I can't guarantee.
But that's the problem, though. The problem is conceptually, yes. Let's make sure you get a superstar who's completely healthy in the playoffs, and you won't have any issues, right? But there isn't a guy that you can just say, I would swap Giannis for him, and you're going to be in the same position you're in. The challenge is the drop-off will be so steep, whoever you will go out there and get. And now, instead of being a top 2 or 3 seed, now you're a 7 or 8 seed.
Right, but again, that
you want that?
Sounds good. No, wait. They can lose in the first round, just like they have the last 2 years. What's been the benefit of the last 2 years? You tell me the benefit to the Milwaukee Bucks of having Giannis the last 2 years. Tell me.
He's the reason that they were in a position going into the playoffs to be a contender.
La-di-da, we're in the position. If you lose first
what
round,
do you want?
Who cares what your position is?
What is the name of your doctor and pharmacist who has the magic elixir where nobody ever gets hurt or injured after an 82 game season? No, I need to know. I need to know your doctor, because if you got Mr. Fix-It-All and a guy who maybe rubs some cream on your knee and all of a sudden you are invincible, I would love to meet that individual.
No, the question is, do we want you, Myron Metcalf, or do we want Giannis based on the concern? Some people are healthier than others, right?
I think
saying,
what's real.
As great as Giannis is, and he's as great as you said, not better, he's been worth nothing in the last 2 years because he's not healthy in the playoffs, and they've lost in the first round. That is also accurate, correct?
That is a very narrow-minded way to make a point. And the challenge with that is this. But hear me out. Here's the challenge, though.
All right.
You're not even in a position to be a top seed with Giannis. So now let's take that scenario. Let's say you go out and get a guy who's not Giannis, but he's 100% healthy even throughout the playoffs. Okay. Without Giannis, now you're, let's say, a 7 or 8 seed.
And in future years, and not just next year. Yeah.
Let's say future years, you got a guy who's not Giannis, but now you still have him the whole year, and you know you're going to have him in the playoffs. Now you're a 7 or 8 seed battling in the play-in. Let's say you get a 7 seed. Great. Now you go play a 2 seed in the East, but you got a healthy guy. Are you telling me you want healthy top 25-ish player, or do you want Giannis, a top 5 player who could lead you to a championship? The problem is, in your scenario, you ultimately lose in the end either way. You're saying Giannis will be hurt, but I'm telling you, with a guy who's not in that category that Giannis is in, we're not even having this conversation because you're not going to be a contender. What are we talking about?
Well, we don't know what they could get for him, but we're talking about is if Giannis, Kawhi Leonard's a great example, right? I mean, what do you say now about Kawhi Leonard? What are you saying now?
I think obviously the health issues have been obviously a real factor for Kawhi Leonard. But when he was available throughout the season, the Clippers were very good. And I think a lot of people saw them as maybe a top contender. I think with Giannis, but the risk is still the reward is still worth the risk, because you're talking about an elite class of guys. Now, if you tell me you're talking about a guy who is not on that level, I'm with you, because you can go out and replace those players. You don't have a replacement for a top 10 guy in this league, and Giannis is top 5. So I just think this was unfortunate how it all unfolded. The timing of how he got hurt. It sounds like he worked, in the middle of the night as hard as he could to try to come back and just couldn't.
Yeah.
But the possibility with Giannis is why you paid him all that money, and why the goal has to be, how do we build more around Giannis as the league gets more competitive, the league gets younger? Are we built for that? But Giannis is still the focus.
See, my answer is, this is why I want to have the discussion, because you're wrong. The first and most important thing, 10 times more important than that, is how do we keep Giannis healthy for the playoffs? Nothing else matters.
So you want load management?
No guarantee of that. But, for example, should he play for Greece? I would say probably not.
That's a hard one, because that's a very personal thing. That's about national pride. And listen, would you tell an American player that? I just think that's a very personal decision.
If he was that, given what's happened to him in the last 2 years for the Bucks, damn right I'd tell him. Now, he can do what he wants.
I think that's a very...
He what he do, because I know the most important thing for the Bucks, more than anything else, is keeping him healthy for the playoffs. And I don't know what
he's not going to come back and play for Greece unless he's healthy.
What?
He's not going to play for Greece unless he's healthy.
He might be healthy at that time.
Yeah, he's not going to play for Greece. And I also think Giannis will be smart. I don't think he's going to go out there and play for Greece if he doesn't feel like he's up for it. But what you're talking about is how we get to the postseason. So let me ask you this.
Yes.
You want load management? You want load management?
No. I want whatever you
Oh, that's what you're talking about, though.
Plan.
No. How do we get to the playoffs healthy? We got to do load management. So now let me give you a scenario.
I don't
Giannis plays 52 games a year. You okay with that? Are you okay with that?
I'm not. No, the thing I'm okay with is this discussion. I'm willing to let you be in charge, Myron. My point of this is what needs to be discussed before we talk about all that other stuff, because none of it means diddly unless you can keep him healthy for the playoffs. And I'm willing to let you be in charge. I just want to make sure when we talk about the Bucks for next year, this is the first thing we talk about, because it's the most important thing. Not if they bring in.
I'm having that conversation. But I'm asking you, are you okay with load management, Giannis? Are you okay with us going, Giannis, 52 games?
Hell yes.
We're going to keep you.
If you said he could only play 30 games and that give him the best chance to be healthy for the playoffs, I'd say 30 games. If you said 5 games, I'd say that. But I'm willing, if you say that's crazy, he needs to play an X number of games. I will defer whatever you say as long as we're in agreement that the most important thing is to figure out the best way, whatever that is, to keep him healthy for the playoffs. Whatever you decide, I'm in your corner, Myron.
You know what? 5 games, that sounds wonderful. And while we're at it, let's change the name. I grew up in Milwaukee, love the name the Milwaukee Bucks. We're going to change the name, though, in your scenario, to the Milwaukee Pistons, because that's exactly who they're going to be if Giannis plays 5 games. They're not going to even be sniffing the playoffs under the 5-game scenario. But you are negating the true value of the regular season. The only reason we get to a place where he can even compete in the playoffs is because of what he does during the regular season. So if you pull him back,
how many games? Yes, you're right. That's a part of it too.
But that's why I think, to me, it's not the games. To me, it's not some magical pill that's going to keep him healthy for the postseason. How do you get younger? How do you get Giannis in a situation where there's some fresh legs on this roster who can fill out the roster and give him a push, allow him maybe in the fourth quarter to play less, especially if it's a blowout? How do you allow yourself to be competitive if you have to rest Giannis? If you look around the league is getting younger. And that's
now we're talking. See, now you added if you have to rest Giannis. They didn't bring that up the first time he brought this up, Myron. Now we're talking.
No. Well, I mean, we were playing 5 games. I mean, in your scenario, the Bucks were
you're in charge.
The Bucks were the best team in the Big Ten. The Bucks were barely the best team in the Big Ten in your scenario, playing 5 games. So I'm saying, if you
5, I said you get to decide. But if somebody said 5, because they had maybe young players like you said that makes the team better, I just want it in the context that you gave it. The benefit of
getting
the
younger
players, would be that
there's no choice but to get younger.
Okay, but that's going to be hard to be as good if you get younger, right?
But I think the challenge is go look at what the Eastern Conference is. I think that's what people should be looking at. You're talking about healthy Giannis. I think it's, are you going to be able to keep up? I think that has to be the real question. And a 35-year-old Damian Lillard has to be a part of that conversation as well. Because the Boston Celtics have 2 stars who are in their 20s. They're not going anywhere. The Knicks look like a perfect landing spot for some superstar free agent. Paul George could say, get me to New York. And all of a sudden, they're maybe the best team in the East right there with Boston. Philly has Embiid and a lot of issues there, but they're about to give Tyrese Maxey $250 million. They're going to be okay. Miami could trade Jimmy Butler, but someone will go to Miami because the beach is undefeated. They'll be good no matter what happens, right? So you're going to have a bunch of young teams in the East that the Bucks have to compete with, again, 8 guys in their 30s on the current roster. Giannis turns 30 later this year. I think this is about youth and the fact that in order to compete in this league, you have to get younger, not older. And that's, to me, the challenge that the Bucks have right now. They can't keep up with these young teams, and it's not going to get easier going into the years ahead.
Myron Metcalf. He's the star of the Homer Hour. Second quarter. Bucks. Actually, it's not the Homer Hour. I stand by. It's the former Bucks, ex-Bucks at 6. Second quarter next.
More Hoops Talk coming up next on 94.5 ESPN. This is Bucks at 6.
Your local IKEA is rolling out new lower prices on hundreds of your favorite furniture options for both in and out of your home. Get a stylish home makeover with affordable deals during IKEA's Sidewalk Sale. Deals so good, myself, Kyle Wallace, and Brad Nortman will be on hand for. Check out KBN live May 8th from 2 to 5 at IKEA in Oak Creek and restyle your home for all of those summer parties with friends. Plus, learn about even more savings with IKEA's family program. It's KBN from IKEA in Oak Creek on May 8th right here on 94.5 ESPN.
Spring fishing is finally here, and Fleet Farm has everything you need to reel in more fish this year. Upgrade your gear with the best brands like Rapala, Berkeley, and St. Croix. Find exclusive flicker sheds you won't find anywhere else, starting at $12.99. Get rod and reel combos starting at only $24.99. And shop our wide selection of fishing line that starts at just $4.99. Land top fishing gear and everything else you need for everyday life at Fleet Farm.
This is Kevin Van Rossum, president of Three Tree Marketing. Send gifts to appreciate anyone, anywhere, anytime with a gift of your choice by using our gifting solutions technology. Our team handles it all, from concepting, site creation, as well as production of branded products. Elevate your brand's connection to its consumers by creating the ultimate gifting experience with us. Make the art of gifting effortless for yourself. At Three Tree Marketing, we chase partners, not orders. Visit threetreemarketing.com to see what we can do for you.
Discover the difference at findhigherlove.com/CBD. Higher Love Cannabis Company is the only cultivator in the UP offering organic, clean, green certified products. That means quality you can trust every time. With 7 locations across the UP, including Menominee, Norway, and Ironwood, finding your Higher Love is easier than ever before. And for our friends in Green Bay, Higher Love is less than an hour away. Kindness starts with you. Experience Higher Love today. Visit findhigherlove.com/CBD and follow them on social media at Find Higher Love.
A Brewers Group outing is the best way to celebrate any special occasion. Birthday parties, anniversaries, or bachelor parties. You can count on the Brewers to host. Brewers account reps make your day at the ballpark a breeze. Plus, get set up with customizable tailgate spaces, seating blocks in your favorite spot at American Family Field, and much more. Start planning your group outing now at brewers.com/groups.
The biggest names in the basketball world.
Dame, Dollar, Lillard.
Having fun and honest conversations.
He puts it in the shoe, right? And sets the tone for brothers and sisters and family.
Every week, Thanasis Adetokounmpo sits down with special guests on The Analysis Show. Presented by Potawatomi Casino Hotel and curbless, ready-to-drink cocktails.
Fantastic.
Find The Analysis Show on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And on YouTube by searching The Analysis Show.
It's time for the Ortho ASAP Minute from Orthopedic Associates of Wisconsin.
I'm talking with Dr. Chris Killian. Doctor, if someone starts to feel pain, what are the first things that they need to do?
Certainly resting it. Ice can be helpful, anti-inflammatories.
So let's say none of that works and someone is looking for that next step to relieve their pain. Just because someone steps into your office, that does not automatically mean that that next step is a surgical procedure. Is that right?
We still kind of treat surgery as kind of a last option once you've exhausted conservative management. So those conservative treatments, again, being rest, ice. If it's your shoulder we're talking about, going through a period where maybe a short period of immobilization. And then the mainstay is physical therapy. We have physical therapists here specifically at Orthopedic Associates of Wisconsin that work with us and train with us that allow a vast majority of people to actually avoid surgery altogether, depending on what their issue is.
The Ortho ASAP Minute is sponsored by Orthopedic Associates of Wisconsin. There is a difference.
You're listening to Bucks at 6 on 94.5 ESPN and streaming live on YouTube.
Actually, that would be the former Bucks or late Bucks or ex-Bucks at 6 because they be done. Whooped last night by the Pacers. I'm at Potawatomi. It's their grand opening of the sports book. 2,000 square feet. That's how big the TV wall is. 32 different screens, so you can come and say you want to watch cricket, and I think they'll find a screen for you. Talking with Myron Metcalf of ESPN. Where were we before the break?
I think you were sending the Bucks to the ACC or something. I don't know. Something about not having a superstar, which didn't make a lot of sense to me. Listen,
I know. I just want everybody to know the most important thing about next season, above everything else, is the ability to have Giannis healthy in the playoffs. And as long as everybody understands that, that's the most important thing by about tenfold, then everything goes from there. And it's a concern since he's missed 9 of 11 playoff games the last 2 years. But
it
we're
good
now because Myron's going to figure out the plan. All right. I could ask you what happened to the Bucks this year, but to me, it's exactly that. But, I mean, there were issues during the season. I have a concern about whether they just have players that are too similar in terms of Kawhi Leonard, Middleton, and Giannis in terms of having the ball, shooting, but that, no one ever really found out because, of course, Giannis was hurt in the playoffs. So, what would be your assessment of the Bucks this season?
Too much change in a short period of time. I think the thing with Dame is that, I don't think Milwaukee was his first choice, but that's fine. That happens to people. You didn't have a no trade clause. You go where they send you.
He wanted to go to the Heat, right?
Of course, but I think the biggest thing was Dame had played for a decade with a team that built everything around him. He was the first shot, the last shot. And even going back to college at Weber State, that's who he was. He is that guy, the star. And I think coming into a situation where that was no longer the case because of Giannis, I think that was a major adjustment. On top of everything, obviously, going on in his personal life and just making the move to Milwaukee. So I think that took a lot of time. And then clearly the Adrian Griffin stuff, the stuff that was happening in practice, didn't seem like there was a vibe there. You let him go. And you bring in Doc Rivers. And, I guess I always wonder how much convincing they had to do with Doc. Was Doc all in? Was he comfortable doing TV? Did they have to really pursue him to take the job? I don't know. But it just felt like a lot of change. Dame and Giannis trying to get on the same page. Doc Rivers trying to figure out how to coach this team. And you have a third of a season to really do that. That's a tough task for anybody. I mean, ultimately at the end it was the health, but I think it was just not having enough time to put that cake in the oven. I don't know how to bake a cake, but I assume, you prepare and put it in the oven for I don't know how long. They didn't have enough time to do that, and you can't fake that. Like, the one thing you can't fake in this league is team chemistry. You can't pretend like you got it all figured out suddenly in the playoffs and go on a run. This isn't the NCAA tournament. And I think that was the biggest issue. With Giannis and Dame, if they run this back for year 2, will they come into next year with a different mindset? Because I think that is going to be the biggest thing. What do they do this offseason to build their bond so that everybody's on the same page in year 2?
Well, don't you think that's going to exist just because of the time they're going to have to do it, or not?
I don't think you can change Dame. I mean, what you saw in this series was when Dame had the ball and it was his show, he does pretty well under those circumstances. That's what he's accustomed to. And I think certainly there were moments where you go, wow, Giannis and Dame together at their peak, incredible. But it didn't feel always like Batman and Robin. It felt a lot of times like Superman and Superman. But guess what? Someone has to be Robin. It doesn't matter what team you're talking about. Someone has to take on that role. And I think that's one of the things they got to get more comfortable with going to the next season. And then I think it's not the supporting cast. You're going to have Brooke Lopez and Bobby Portis. Those guys are in the contract. Middleton. It's the other guy.
Let me stop you and ask you, so who's going to take the role? Or if one is willing to be second, what does that mean in terms of the way you play? So Dame brings the ball up every time, and Giannis is. I'm just curious as to what could be done to help create that, or do you just not have Middleton because he's not going to get the ball that much? What's realistic as an outcome that solves the problem that you're suggesting, and I agree with exists.
Yeah, I think Middleton, obviously showed up in the playoffs, and you saw what he can be.
Nobody else was there. He was the man.
Yeah.
Now
you
not the
saw.
Man.
It's different. So you saw what he can be. I think, I don't care who you are. If you're on a team with one of the 3 or 4 best players on the planet. It's his team. This is Giannis's team. And Dame adjusted to that, you know? But if you listen to those guys talk, they said the All-Star break was sort of the first stretch where they really came together and really started having those conversations and beginning to understand each other. So I think the process is in place, but going into next season, there can be no doubt. And I think the challenge with Dame is you have one of the most explosive offensive players in the NBA. There's no denying that. And we know what they can be. Through these 6 games they played in the playoffs, they were 5th in offensive efficiency in the NBA. They were 15th out of 16 teams in defensive efficiency. Dame's a liability on defense. How do you fix that? That third guy, if it's going to continue to be Middleton, if you make a move, you have to have a guy who is better defensively, and I think you need a younger guy at that spot. I keep talking about Philly. Tyrese Maxey's a great example. Can you identify a young talent that could give you that energy boost, could help you out defensively? Because Damian Lillard is great offensively, but he gets hunted on defense, and there's no way around that. So I think getting more chemistry between those two, having more familiarity will be a big move. But they got personnel issues.
You just addressed it. You got to add somebody defensively, because however they get along, the defensive issue you brought up isn't solved because they're getting along, right? That still exists. I mean, they need Drew Holiday, but that's not possible. So then I don't know. Then you conceivably have to trade Middleton, or how if you could, how do you address that issue?
Ideally, Go ahead, on.
No, how do you address it? I think these are the things that everybody watched.
The trade value is a challenge for all these situations, right? Like, even let's say you talk about Giannis getting traded, right?
Yeah, we know.
What are you realistically going to
get?
get?
They don't believe. They're not worried about his health, but
no.
But the way you present that, I would think you would consider trading Dame, because Middleton can, I think, prove that if you give him a chance, he can be the guy to some degree, and then you can address the defensive with a person younger and other than Damian Lillard. But I don't know if that's right. That seems to me it would be
but that's the scenario, though. I mean, the 3 guys at the top, though. You talk about Giannis. Realistically, you're not going to get another equal star because there isn't anybody. More than likely, somebody's going to offer you a whole bunch of draft picks. Giannis is not getting traded. The scary situation for the Bucks can't be that. The scary situation has to be if Giannis decides he doesn't feel like he can win here. That's the scenario that everybody should fear. If for whatever reason he goes, I'm going to demand a trade. Anything short of that, he's not going.
No one should fear that. The first thing they should fear is whether he can stay healthy in the playoffs. That's a legitimate fear over the last 2 years. That's a fear everyone should have. Doesn't mean he's going to be traded. There's no fear that should exist for Bucks fans equal to the fear of Giannis being hurt in the playoffs for a 3rd straight year.
Homer, is there an NBA superstar store that you have access to? You have a magical doctor who you go see him one time and you never get injured. Is there an NBA superstar store that you know?
Okay. He's not going to be traded.
Yeah.
But do you agree? The biggest concern is and that there may be nothing you can do about it because you're gonna bring him back and he's gonna play. The biggest concern, of which no one can really have much control, is that he stay healthy in the playoffs because he hasn't been the last 2 years.
Oh yeah, that's
okay.
That has to be obviously the hope. That's obviously the goal. But I also think some of that's out of your control. But Damian and Chris Middleton, the challenge with those 2 guys is with Dame is owed, I believe, $48 million next year. But by the end of this contract, he's owed $63 million at the age of 36. So you're talking about a 36-year-old with a player option for $63 million, which he'll take. That's a hard contract to move. I don't see you getting something in return that lines up with a Damian Lillard if you make that move. I feel the same way about Chris Middleton. Chris Middleton's trade value's down because of what? The injuries have been such an issue for him as well. So I don't know that you go out and get a natural third option who just slides right in and all of a sudden you're a better team. The challenge is there aren't many ways for the Bucks to get better right now, considering their contractual situation and the way that they've tied themselves to Damian Lillard, Giannis, Chris Middleton, Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis, right? But with that supporting cast, your Patrick Beverleys, a guy who's 35, players like that, you can get younger. And I think that has to be a part of how they approach this summer. Can we add some more energetic bodies who can be good defensive guys, good shooters, who can come in and give us some of that youth that we're missing? Because the Eastern Conference is young and it's tough, and the top teams aren't going anywhere. How do you compete going forward? That, to me, has to be the biggest fear, considering the way that they're built right now with a team that's getting old at this point.
The Bucks at 6, or the ex-Bucks, the former Bucks, third quarter with Myron Metcalf. Next.
The basketball conversation continues after this on 94.5 ESPN. You're listening to Bucks at 6.
Wild Rock Golf in the Wisconsin Dells, a must-play every golf season. Wild Rock Golf features championship golf in the heart of Wisconsin. Wild Rock, a Herdston Fry masterpiece that's cut from the natural beauty of the Wisconsin Dells and offers stunning views from elevated tee boxes. Wild Rock presents spectacular greens that roll fast and true. Wild Rock Golf in the Wisconsin Dells, a unique gem that offers a challenge to avid golfers of all abilities. Book your tee time today for this must-play at wildrockgolf.com, wildrockgolf.com.
From big tailgate parties to cozy dinners for two, the freshest ideas start with a stop at Century Foods. Now through Wednesday, save on 8.8 to 12-ounce selected varieties Kellogg's Kids cereal, 2 for $6. 6 to 24-ounce selected varieties Frito-Lay party-sized chips or dips, 2 for $9. 12-pack cans selected varieties Super Chill Soda, $4.49. 64-ounce selected varieties Old Orchard Juice, 2 for $5.
Why'd you throw my glass across the room?
I have to keep practicing.
The vase from Aunt Sophie?
I'm warming up in case I get to take them out at American Family Field. Read this.
Win the ultimate baseball fan experience at Century Foods?
You either get to throw out the first pitch, hold the finish line for the famous racing sausages, or be on the field during batting practice. My new TV!
Just doing a little batting practice of my own.
The ultimate baseball fan experience. Return the entry form found in the weekly ad to any Century by July 24th.
Jeff Levering and wife Ashley love their patio door from Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin.
It's so bright, it's so clear. I can see the kids outside playing, and it makes it comfortable for the life we live, which is an active one.
I love the roll screen. The fact that the screen is on the inside.
For the first time, our whole house actually feels like the same climate.
And no drafts. It's a game changer.
Hi, I'm Gina Della from Pella. And if you order today, you get 0% interest for up to 60 months. When it comes to replacing or upgrading your windows and doors, you want to be confident about your decisions. With Pella Design Works, you can see what your home could look like before you buy. Black frame windows or white, vinyl, wood, or fiberglass. Bring your vision to life and rest assured it's the perfect style for your home. Right now, get 0% interest-free financing for up to 60 months when you order by May 10th. Set your free in-home consultation at PellaWI.com.
Certain restrictions apply. Ends 5/10/2024.
Hi, it's John Reitz from Great Midwest Bank. And you know, there's more to being a local Wisconsin bank than perfectly pronouncing Oconomowoc or Waukesha. Or is it Waukesha? But rest assured, at Great Midwest Bank, we understand the local community and economy because we're a part of it. At GMB, we provide customized lending products that others just can't offer. Experience a hometown banking difference. Head to greatmidwestbank.com. Great Midwest Bank, your simply local equal housing lender.
They say seeing is believing, and when you see what's inside at American Place Casino, you better believe you're gonna love it. Because when it comes to amazing gaming, we're a real game changer. With the most exciting of table games like blackjack, craps, and roulette, the newest slots, a sportsbook, restaurants, bars, and more. So if you're ready for excitement, we'll see you soon. American Place Casino. Change the game.
Must be 21 years of age or older. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER, 1-800-426-2537.
Homer here to tell you about Rawhide Youth Services. Co-founded in 1965 by Bart and Cherry Starr, Rawhide is a faith-based nonprofit that helps thousands of youth every year, many right here in Milwaukee, overcome trauma, suicidal thoughts, and live better lives. For youth who are hurting, who feel lost or abandoned, and families feeling powerless to help them, Rawhide is there to help. They also need vehicle donations to support their mission of helping hurting youth transform their future. Donate to Rawhide Youth Services. Visit rawhide.org/donate.
This is Bucks at 6 on 94.5 ESPN and streaming live on YouTube.
Yes, the Bucks at 6, the former Bucks at 6, the ex-Bucks at 6. Clearly this will be the last show because they're out of the playoffs. They got crushed. I would not have played Damian Lillard in the game as well as they had played without him in the previous game and as well as they had played the game before that, which they could have won if there hadn't been incredible shooting by Indiana and Bobby Portis going crazy. And that was done on the road. Joined by Myron Metcalf. He has not agreed with me much today. I wonder if he's going to agree with me now. I would not have played Damian Lillard. I'd have stayed with the same group. They were on fire in 2 straight games against Indiana.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Damian's ready to go, you got to give him a shot. I mean,
okay,
that happens for teams where they kind of come together, and if you're the Pacers, it was a different look. I mean, there's no film on that group that they suddenly played twice, right? There's no
and their
playing
defense,
without Damian Lillard.
I'll defer to you. Their defense was so good. In the last game they won, like, Indiana doesn't have any open shots. This defense is unreal. And I don't know what they switched or whatever. And I said, well, it shouldn't take you 5 games to figure it out. But, yeah, I'd like to know what the numbers were. You talked about the defense. Give me the numbers in games 3 and 4.
Oh, well, they were much better, but I think some of that smoke and mirrors a little bit, right? Because I think ultimately, are you going to beat the Pacers in a 7-game series with that group? I don't think so. You know, Damian Lillard, if he's ready to go, you put him on the floor. But their issues were bigger than that. I mean, they lost 4 or 5 to the Pacers in the regular season, right? So the Pacers have kind of had their number no matter what. But
look, they couldn't stop the Pacers. The only time they stopped the Pacers was smoke and mirrors for 2 games.
They did that. And I think the way they did it was they slowed the game down. But I think the Pacers are a great example of what you have to prepare for somehow. That is a young team that runs the floor the minute they get the ball. They are a track meet on a basketball court. And I think what you saw in this series was it was just so hard to keep up with them for 4 quarters. And that goes back to the youth thing. How are you going to run?
Except for 2 games.
For 2 games, they go 1-1.
They did one,
but I don't think
they held them to no points in the first game. But and I mean,
they slowed the game down.
They did it in Indiana. They didn't just they did it 1 game at home. No. If Bobby Portis doesn't do, I can't even talk about it. I can't comprehend how you can do that. And I blame Doc Rivers,
I think
actually. Tell me if I should blame Doc.
For Bobby?
Yes.
For Bobby?
Before that game, I go to Bobby Portis, who's crazy guy, and say, Bobby, you got to play the whole game. Now you say, why would you have to say that? Because I know Bobby Portis, and I know what's going on with Indiana. Bobby, you play the whole game. You cannot. And I don't think he said that to him because he probably has too much professional respect for him, but it was a mistake.
I don't know how you stop Bobby from being Bobby, unfortunately. I mean, I think in those situations, I cover Bobby in college. When he's challenged or he feels like he's challenged, those things can happen. I think as good as that group was.
I refuse to believe that he is so selfish and so stupid that he wouldn't be a little different with the top 2 players not playing on his team at any level. I can't believe that. Bobby will not be Bobby.
He is in a great spot, but I think you saw some of those discipline issues, and we've seen it under Doc Rivers this whole time. I mean, some of the defensive gaps you've seen. Obviously Patrick Beverly, what happened last night, Bobby Portis. I think, though, ultimately, realistically, this team is coming back because there just aren't a lot of ways for them to get significantly better based on the way they've locked themselves into contracts. So, to me, the real conversation is does Doc Rivers get better? Because that is the guy who has to put all this together. We're talking about, imaginary trades and all that stuff. Doc Rivers was handed a contender. He was handed a team that looked like it could compete for a championship. Forget when Giannis got hurt. They fell from that perch in the regular season under Doc. Suddenly, they didn't look like the same team that you thought could win a championship. How does Doc correct that? Because if you just go to Giannis and the injury, all of a sudden we're avoiding the 17-19 stretch in the regular season under Doc. We're avoiding that a guy who has been to the mountaintop in the NBA suddenly wasn't as good as the guy who just got fired. And we're just talking about records. So what does Doc do?
The strength of schedule is different that factors in. But no, there's no denying the record was. Yeah, I think the coach
that sounds like an excuse for Doc.
Had the greatest record ever for a Bucks coach in certain number of games.
Sounds like a Doc Rivers excuse there.
I know. I agree with you. I'm not arguing with that. I'm just saying what happened? I don't understand how he got the job in the sense that when they were looking for a coach, they had 3 finalists, and he was available. He didn't even make the finalists. He doesn't make the finalists, and yet when they want to replace Griffin, then they go to him? They couldn't get Nick Nurse, but the other guy was there, right? Atkinson, the guy from Golden State, wasn't he still available?
It's interesting to me. I think teams fall in love with a name. Like, the NBA loves recycled coaches.
No, I agree. If
they
Doc
love
Rivers loses, you can live with that and sell that. You can't sell it. You can't sell Griffin. Yeah, I agree with you totally.
Yeah, and I think that's the way teams approach it. You got guys who you go, okay, we know the name. He's a familiar commodity, but so what, right? Doc Rivers has had access to a lot of future Hall of Famers, and the results in many cases have been disappointing, But I still think, even that said, we have to get to year 2 for a full assessment. I don't think any coach who comes into a team in the middle of the season is in a good spot, especially when that team months earlier just added a second superstar and traded a guy in Drew Holiday who we're all going to talk about his defense and what he did. Drew was beloved in the city, in that locker room. There was a greater impact of losing Drew Holiday beyond the basketball court. So now you're bringing Damian Lillard, who that wasn't his first choice to be in Milwaukee. He's got personal stuff happening. So Doc Rivers is coming in the middle of a transition in that locker room, and now there's a transition with the coaches. I think you can say Giannis is hurt. We never know what the Bucks would have done if both Dame and Giannis had been healthy. But you have to get to year 2 because realistically, there's no alternative to running this back with the same team again. You're not going to go out in this offseason and find a great player who's going to revolutionize your franchise. The Bucks you see, at least if they're healthy, those are the Bucks you're going to get next year. And then we got to start having a conversation about what they really are under Doc Rivers.
Myron Metcalf, fourth quarter on Bucks at 6 or former Bucks at 6 or ex-Bucks at 6 because they done. Next.
More Hoops Talk coming up next on 94.5 ESPN. This is Bucks at 6. Football guy.
Good morning, Tausch. How are you?
Football guy.
Old T's a little, I'm not feeling 100%.
Coming at it from different views.
No, just I think with all that little stuff that's going around and the long trip back from the loo, I'm going to grind.
Wilde and Tausch, presented by Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Also sponsored by Coors Light. Weekdays 9 to noon on 94.5 ESPN. And available wherever you get your podcasts with Wisconsin On Demand.
ESPN Radio Sports Beat with Freddie Coleman.
I don't know if the New York Knicks are championship worthy, but there's no doubting this. Their grit, their toughness, mentally and physically, is definitely championship worthy. And we'll see how that's going to play out after beating the Philadelphia 76ers in a very entertaining and very compelling 6-game series. And it wasn't just last night with this basketball team blowing a 22-point lead, being down by 10 in the third quarter, then finding their way to win that ball game led by Jalen Brunson and the Brunson Nets in New York. It's how they've been able to do this all season long. Think about this. This basketball team does not have a 2-time All-Star in Julius Randle. It is very easy to overlook the fact that this was a guy that was giving them 25 points a game, 10 to 12 rebounds a game, and 4 to 5 assists a game. And yet they were able to win 50 games. In the Eastern Conference, that's a little bit better. Yet Boston's at the top of that food chain. Anything is possible. So I'm not going to go there and say the Knicks are championship worthy. but there's no doubting about that when it comes to their grit and their toughness. In 60 seconds, the choice of Joel Embiid or Kawhi Leonard when it comes to this word.
The team's looking good this season.
I think so. Man, I miss playing football. Being young with unlimited energy to burn. Ever since I turned 40, I just can't find that fire I used to have.
Think it could be lower testosterone?
What do you mean?
All guys lose their edge when they turn 40. The body has less testosterone. That's why I take Nugenix Total T.
I've heard about Nugenix. That really works?
Since I started taking Nugenix, I'm lifting like when we played for Coach Carter. I feel more energized at work. It's even spiced up things between me and the missus.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try?
Yep, send a text. It's that easy.
Text CASH to 42424 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T. It's the #1 selling testosterone boosting brand at GNC and Walmart. Do it now and they'll also send you a bottle of Nugenix Thermo X, their newest, most powerful fat burner ever, absolutely free. Text CASH to 42424. That's CASH to 42424. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
I give Joel Embiid a lot of credit. It could not have been easy knowing that plenty of people had that pressure on you to try to finally advance to an NBA championship round, or at least to the Eastern Conference Finals. And once again, it did not happen. And this time around, he was knocked out in the first round. He was literally playing on one leg, averaging 33 points a game. But I'm going to use this word when it comes to him and Kawhi Leonard of the Los Angeles Clippers. And that word is reliable. How much reliability? If you're the Clippers organization, should you have a Kawhi Leonard, who can't seem to stay healthy when you need him, or Joel Embiid in Philadelphia, where something always seems to creep up, or someone always seems to creep up to keep him from being a player getting to the NBA Finals? You wonder how much that question may be in both organizations. As great as these guys still are, how reliable can they be if you want to win a championship? For the ESPN Radio Sports Beat, I'm Freddie Coleman.
Suit up for the $800,000 Sports Car Series at Potawatomi Casino Hotel Milwaukee. April through May, score free play, cash, one of 4 new Toyota GR86s or a new Toyota Supra. Play with your club card to earn entries, 5 times the entries on drawing days, and when the Milwaukee Brewers play at home. Got what it takes? Slugger, only at Potawatomi. For more details, visit paysbig.com/sportscar. Must be 21 and a club member to play.
You're listening to Bucks at 6 on 94.5 ESPN and streaming live on YouTube.
Bucks at 6, former Bucks at 6, ex-Bucks at 6, done Bucks at 6, crushed last night. They did better than the Titanic, but not much. Myron Metcalf, and on this date in 1987, Dr. J played his final game. I remember watching it in the playoffs against the Bucks, and I see, Myron, some comparison to him and Giannis, because so many of the highlights of both of them are dribbling almost full length of the court or half length of the court and finishing with an incredible dunk.
Yeah. No, I mean, two incredible, I think, generational talents. We know what Giannis is when he's healthy. There's not many comparisons. I mean, Jokic is an incredible player. Embiid's an incredible player. I think Giannis, though, is the best two-way player at that position and one of the best players we've seen, over the last 25 years in that spot. But he is turning 30, and, this is the age, especially with big men, where you go, okay, is durability a concern? At the same time, there's just no way to go out and find someone like him. So I think especially if you're a Milwaukee fan, right? You know what the world was like post Lou Alcindor, he was still at the time. Kareem ended up in LA, right? And how long it took to get the kind of player. And, as a Milwaukee guy, I loved, some of the great players that came through in the 80s and the Glenn Robinson years. And there were some beautiful moments for that franchise. But nothing like that.
Yeah.
Because it takes a top 5 player to lead you to a championship. That's just NBA history. Now, there are some anomalies in there where you can say, this team kind of figured it out, but it's rare. I mean, Larry Bird and Magic Johnson and Dr. J, those guys won for a reason.
Yeah, can Doc get it done? Do you have faith in Doc figuring it out so that this group are certainly the top three. I don't know about what they could do with the rest of them, how they're going to get some youth in. But can Doc get it done? Can they, be a player in terms of a player for the Eastern Conference next year?
Yeah, healthy, of course. Yeah, they can. I mean, they would have been this year, I think. I think they get through the Pacers if they're healthy. But they have to be more consistent. And again, how do you round out the roster to get more support coming off the bench? I think that's something they got to do their best to figure out, even though they don't have a lot of trade assets. But this is why you bring in Doc. You bring him in to figure it out, but it's not going to get easier. The Pacers aren't going anywhere. They're going to get better. The Knicks might add a superstar, right? What do you do there?
Shouldn't LeBron go to New York? That's where he should go. Try to win a title there.
Oh, it'd be smart. It'd be smart. I mean, having all that youth around him, that's. I think there are going to be a bunch of players who want to be in New York because they see the potential. It's not just the city; it's the opportunity to play with that group.
Right.
It won't be just LeBron.
If LeBron wants to win one more title, the best place by far is New York. That would increase.
I think New York's a good shot. I mean, that's good. If they draft his son, they probably have him locked in.
Well, I don't. I mean, I said the Bucks can draft every member of his family, and he ain't coming to Milwaukee. I mean, if you're LeBron, if I'm LeBron, I want to play with the Knicks. I then create a legacy in terms of going to all these different places, and it's not like I went, where the team was great and I was just getting a trophy. It would elevate I believe his greatness, given at his age, because the Knicks haven't won forever, and now you got all these different places he's won, and the Knicks would fit. I assume it's possible.
It'd be fun. It'd be fun for guys in our business, and he'd be competitive. I mean, it'd be New York and Boston. I think in that situation, in Milwaukee, right behind that group, if he did something like that. But they could get another guy. Like, someone's going to end up in New York, and New York's going to be even better next year. And that's going to make things more difficult for Milwaukee and every team in the Eastern Conference.
Right. But if you're New York, how do you want anybody above LeBron? You name somebody you'd rather, if you're the Knicks, you'd rather have than LeBron.
I mean, how long does LeBron want to play? That becomes a concern.
I'll do it for a week. A year? I don't know that he's going to play more than a year. Next year, it's all or nothing, right? If he goes there, I mean, they're clearly one of the elite teams. Now you add LeBron, maybe just a year.
Yeah, I mean, you'll do it, but I don't think it guarantees anything. I think they're right there with Boston. It's Boston and New York in that situation. And then you still got to figure out the West and the talented teams they have over there. I mean, even LeBron, if he made that move, it'd be because of what I'm talking about with Giannis. He's got to get more youth around him. He can't. Yeah. Guys, as they get older, they just can't carry teams the same way. Not over the course of 82 games, 110 games if you get through the finals and you play a bunch of 7-game series. So I think Giannis has the same attitude, I'm sure. Hey, I need some more young bodies around me.
Right. We got about 30 seconds. Who's your pick? Boston, Denver. I don't know if there's
Boston versus Denver. I think it's Boston versus Minnesota, and I think Boston wins it all.
All right. I appreciate you doing this. Just if you can, find the greatest doctor you have for people that are like about 30, and let me know so that I can fill my role in doing the most important thing, keeping Giannis healthy. Is he as nice to everybody else as he is to us? He's just an amazing person. Is he national? People have the same view.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah,
he's great.
Good. It was a pleasure. Yep, I'm the guy. 2-11, 2 of the last 11 he's played. Thanks for coming on, Myron. I appreciate you taking an hour. You didn't have to, and it was nice of you to do it.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Myron Metcalf, ESPN. The Bucks at 6, ex-Bucks, former Bucks. Done. Next.
It started with a prediction.
Go out there and play basketball and win.
And how many